This is the Tesla Model S, and when it was launched back in 2012, it revolutionised electric cars and it changed their image completely. Without this, we'd never have seen cars like the Jaguar I-Pace, the Audi e-tron, and most recently the Porsche Taycan. But surely, if it's 8 years old, there must now be better options if you're looking for a luxury car that you can plug in rather than fill up with petrol. Well, that's what we're going to be finding out in this video. We'll also be telling you how fast the Model S is, how quickly it can charge up, how well it can drive itself, how it can double as an outdoor cinema, and how it's even big enough to go camping in. But before we kick off, make sure you're subscribed to our channel and that you've turned on notifications by clicking on the bell icon below. If you don't do this, we can't let you know about some of the really exciting videos we've got coming up over the next few weeks. Also remember that if you want to buy any new car, electric or otherwise, whatcar.com is the place to get a great deal without any haggling. So head over there by clicking the banner above or Google What Car Deals. So I don't know about you, but I reckon this design has aged really well. It doesn't look 8 years old at all. And it isn't even as though it's had a major facelift during that time. This nose was given a bit of a job back in 2016. There used to be a black fake plastic grille here, but really we're talking about very minor changes compared with what most manufacturers make when they facelift a car. If you're thinking the design looks a bit like a Mazda, well, that's probably because that's where the guy who designed the Model S, Franz von Holzhausen, came from, and he's designed every other Tesla since. But which of Tesla's current models do you reckon looks best? The Model S, the Model 3, the Model X, or the Model Y? Let us know by voting in our poll. Those model letters are incidentally supposed to say sexy. Tesla wanted to call the Model 3 the Model E to spell the word properly, but Ford had already filed a trademark for that name. Anyway, at the moment there are just two versions of the Model S, one called the Long Range and another called the Performance, which is the one we've got here today. Both cars have exactly the same 100 kilowatt-hour battery, but the Performance has more powerful electric motors for even faster acceleration, and we'll tell you what the difference there is a little bit later on. Whichever one you go for, you can charge up in several ways. You can plug in at home, where a full charge from a 7 kilowatt wall box will take around 15 hours. You can use a CCS public charging point like the ones you'll find at a motorway service station, or, and this is one of the main reasons you might buy a Tesla over another brand of electric car, you get exclusive use of the company's proprietary supercharger network. There are more than 500 of these across the UK, and seriously quick charging rates are possible, so you can expect the battery to go from 10% to 80% full in less than 40 minutes, although times do vary depending on things like the battery temperature. Better still, if you buy a Model S from Tesla's existing stock rather than putting in a custom factory order, you'll get free unlimited supercharger use for the entire life of the car. Again, in here, it doesn't look its age, does it? And that's probably because Tesla has actually influenced many other manufacturers with its really minimalist interiors with very few buttons and switches. And pretty much everything is controlled through this enormous 17-inch touchscreen here in the middle of the dashboard. Now, usually we're not fans of touchscreens in cars. They can be quite distracting to use while you're driving, and we'd certainly rather have a secondary rotary controller like you get in a BMW. But if you're going to have a touchscreen, at least make it a really big one like this, because it means everything can be spaced out rather than having all the icons crammed closely together. So they're a bit easier to hit accurately when you're driving. So what exactly does it control? Well, it would take me most of the day to go through everything, but as you'd expect, it's where you get navigation instructions, play music and make phone calls. There's also a web browser, a screen where you can schedule charging times and unlock the charging port, an energy consumption meter, and you also use the touchscreen to control the air conditioning. There is a voice control function, and it's useful when you just want to tweak the interior temperature or switch on the heated seats, although it doesn't always work perfectly with British accents, and you can't use it to do things like adjusting the suspension or turning on the headlights. Unlike in the cheaper Model 3 though, you don't use the touchscreen for opening the glove box. There's a button here for that, and you don't use it for adjusting the steering wheel or the door mirrors as well. That's done the old-fashioned way and is less of a faff because of it. The driving position, fundamentally pretty good. The seats line up nicely with the pedals and the steering wheel. You do sit a bit higher up than you do in many saloon cars, although that's not necessarily a bad thing. But these seats, they're not particularly great. They don't have a great amount of support around the shoulder and upper back area, and they don't hold you in place particularly well when you're going around corners either. You do get adjustable lumbar support as standard though, so at least you shouldn't have any lower back pain on longer journeys. Now these seats look like they've been given a coat of Dulux Brilliant White, don't they? They're that bright. I don't know how well it's coming across on film. They cost £1,450 over the regular black seats, but even if you like them, it is worth being realistic about how long they'll stay that colour for. And although they look like they're made of leather, they're actually not. Tesla doesn't use any animal hide on its seats anymore, although there is a little bit here on the steering wheel. Now, one thing Tesla has come in for quite a lot of stick for over the years is quality. Certainly things have improved since the Model S first went on sale, and overall the impression when you get inside this car is that it is an expensive one, and for some that'll be the most important thing. But if you do start looking a little bit closer, you do notice the odd uneven panel gap, both in here and on the body panels outside as well. Overall fit and finish is quite a long way behind cars like the Audi e-tron and the Porsche Taycan. Storage space, well, apart from that rather small glove box I just showed you, there's a much bigger area down here below the touchscreen that's got a couple of cup holders in it, or indeed you could put a bottle of hand sanitizer in or something like that. There's also a lidded cubby here that you can keep your wallet out of sight, and you can also throw a phone or a passport or something in there. There's no storage area under the centre armrest in the front, although if you slide it back you will find a couple of cup holders there. There is one major omission in here though, and that's that there are no door pockets, and that's something all of our testers have commented on without fail. It's something you will get used to after you lived with this car for a bit of time, but when you get in it for the first few times, the big bottle of water or something like that, you will struggle to find somewhere to put it. But let's take a look in the back. And there's plenty of space back here. You've got more legroom and more headroom than you'll find in a Porsche Taycan, for example. And because there's no big hump here in the middle of the floor, it actually makes it quite easy to fit 3 adults sitting side by side. There actually used to be a 7-seat version of this car, but although that's no longer available, you do get an absolutely enormous boot. And there's some underfloor storage as well for charging cables and anything else you want to keep out of the way. There's also a small boot under the bonnet that Tesla calls a frunk, so compared with a Porsche Taycan or even a Jaguar I-Pace, this is a much better car for carrying luggage. And actually it's so big when you fold down the rear seats that apparently some Model S owners have made a bed in the back and gone camping in it, leading Tesla to create a camp mode for the air conditioning so that you can keep the interior cool without the ignition and the lights on. Now, if you've got a bucket list with, I don't know, swimming with dolphins or going up in a hot air balloon on it, then I suggest you add one more thing to that list, and that is experiencing the acceleration in a Tesla Model S, because seriously, the savagery is like nothing else this side of a Bugatti Chiron, and let's face it, you're a lot less likely to have a go in one of those. Even the cheaper long-range model can do 0 to 60 in 3.7 seconds, but this performance version can do it in a claimed 2.3 seconds. To get access to full power, you need to choose Ludicrous Plus mode, and then to get you off the line as quickly as possible, engage launch mode, which you do simply by standing on the brake pedal and pressing the accelerator all the way to the floor. Do this and you'll feel the nose of the car sink a little bit lower to the ground, shifting its weight forward a bit like a cheetah would just before charging off after a gazelle or something, hence the name Cheetah Stance. Then all you need to do is lift off the brake pedal and 2 enormous electric motors send nearly 800 brake horsepower to all 4 wheels, subjecting your body to more than a G of acceleration force, more than you'd get from jumping out of an aeroplane. Now, we actually tested this very car against the brand new Porsche Taycan Turbo, which is obviously much more expensive, a couple of days ago, and this actually beat it to 60 miles an hour. It was a slightly damp day up at our test track in Bedfordshire, but this posted a time of 2.8 seconds, which is frankly insane. The Taycan managed 0 to 60 in 3.1 seconds, which is still ridiculously quick, and it was actually the slightly faster car to 100 miles an hour. But if you want the full lowdown on how those two cars compare, including our verdict, just head over to our website, whatcar.com, or just click the link up there at the top of the screen. Now, although the Model S is undoubtedly one of the fastest cars in the world, it can still play the role of luxury limo when you want it to. It's pretty comfortable, it doesn't ride quite as smoothly as cars like the Audi e-tron and the Jaguar I-Pace around town, but get it on the motorway, which is where I am now, put the air suspension into its comfort setting, and it wafts along really smoothly. At this sort of speed, you do notice some wind noise from around those frameless doors, and there is some road noise as well. The optional 21-inch alloys fitted to this car probably don't help that. So although it's an electric car, and you might imagine that makes it really quiet, and that is the case around town, at faster speeds you would actually experience less noise in something like a Mercedes S-Class, or if it's an electric car specifically you're looking for, then an Audi e-tron. The Model S does have some of the best self-driving tech around though. Even as standard, you get adaptive cruise control with the smoothest self-steering system we've tried. But if you fork out an extra £5,800 for full self-driving capability, the car can change lanes automatically on the motorway, park itself, and when future software updates are released, will even be able to recognise and respond to traffic lights all by itself.
When you'd rather do the driving yourself, the Model S certainly isn't a boat, despite the fact it's nearly as big as one. It's almost 5 meters long and weighs more than 2 tons. It grips well through the corners, and there isn't too much body lean if you switch the air suspension to sport mode, although it's definitely not as agile as the smaller Model 3 Performance, and nowhere near as much fun as a Porsche Taycan. Now, normally at this point in our reviews, we run you through 5 interesting things about the car. With this, frankly, we could do 50. We don't have quite that much time, so here are 10 of the best.
These 21-inch alloys are optional, and although they look pretty special, you might think twice about upgrading from the standard 19-inch wheels when you hear the price. £4,440. Ouch. Although this pearl white metallic paint, that does come as standard.
The Model S has a HEPA air filtration system for its cabin that Tesla claims is roughly 100 times more effective than most other cars. To quote the official blurb, it can filter out 99.97% of fine particulate matter, gaseous pollutants, as well as bacteria, viruses, pollen, and even mold spores. Even when you're parked up, there's loads of stuff to keep you entertained. You can play games, practical jokes on your passengers, watch Netflix, or you could even check out more What Car reviews on YouTube. Tesla's phone app allows you to remotely check the battery charge level, precondition the interior temperature, unlock the doors, and as long as you're close to the car and have paid extra for full self-driving capability, even summon your Tesla out of a tight parking space. We all know about the dangers of leaving dogs in hot cars, but Tesla has thought of that and has a dedicated dog mode to keep the interior cool while you're out running an errand, although I'm not sure what state those white seats would be in on your return. Buy a Tesla and you'll get over-the-air software updates as and when they become available. That means that new features, including the odd performance upgrade, will make their way to your car without you doing anything at all. According to the official figures, the long-range model can do 379 miles on a full battery charge and the performance version 367 miles. We haven't put the latest Model S through our scientific real range tests yet, but we reckon you should get around about 270 miles if you're driving normally on a mix of roads, although that figure will vary quite a bit depending on how chilly it is outside and, of course, how gentle you are with your right foot.
Prices start at around £78,000 for the long-range version and around £93,000 for this range-topping performance model. Although remember, because this car costs more than £50,000, you won't get any help from the government when you're buying. You will get a grant on some versions of the cheaper Model 3. You get a 4-year, 50,000 mile warranty on most parts of the Model S, although the battery and the drive unit are covered for 8 years and up to 150,000 miles, whichever comes first. There's also a promise that the battery will retain at least 70% of its original capacity during that time.
And if you want to be really green, Tesla will even sell you a Powerwall for your home. It's essentially a big battery that you can charge up using solar panels on your roof and then use that to charge your Model S with 100% renewable energy that's completely free, after you've paid an enormous amount of money to have it all installed, that is. So should you buy a Model S? Well, because of all those software and hardware updates it's had over the years, its age definitely shouldn't put you off. And if you're looking for a really big, luxurious electric car with a long range, then it's definitely worth considering. But if you can live with something a little bit smaller, we reckon the cheaper Model 3 Performance is an even better buy. It's still ridiculously quick, it has a similarly long range to this car, and because it's a bit smaller, it's a bit more agile and it's a bit more fun to drive. But for lots more information on any Tesla, or indeed any car at all, just head over to whatcar.com. Thanks for watching, and as always, if you've enjoyed this video, give it a like, leave us a comment, and other than that, we'll see you next time.